My name is Eleanor Whitaker, and I am 67 years old. I was a bookkeeper for nearly 4 decades, the kind of woman who balanced ledgers down to the last penny and kept her promises the same way. My late husband Robert used to say, "Ellie, if the world ever runs out of clocks, they should just give you a pen and paper. You'd keep us on time." We raised one son, Daniel, in a modest house at the edge of Brookfield. I gave him everything a single boy could ask for: birthday parties with handmade cakes, college tuition when his scholarship fell short, and the down payment on his first condo when he swore he'd pay me back someday. So when Daniel told me he was getting married, I cried with joy. I imagined the kind of day every mother pictures, watching him stand tall at the altar, hearing my name in the program, dancing once with him before he started a new life. For months, I tucked away little things: lace from my own veil, pressed flowers from Robert's memorial, even the hand-stitched quilt I'd saved to pass down as a wedding gift. But small details started tugging at me. A withdrawal slip in my bank statement, $12,500, marked with my signature, only I'd never signed it. A check number missing from my ledger, cashed at a bridal boutique downtown. When I asked Daniel casually about the venue, he smiled nervously and changed the subject. Then, one Saturday morning, I saw the glossy envelope pinned to my neighbor's fridge, an invitation to Daniel and Claire's wedding. My neighbor beamed, showing me the embossed script. There was only one problem. My name wasn't on the guest list. I stood there, smile frozen, my heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. My own son's wedding, and I was erased before the vows were even spoken. That night, as I balanced my ledger with trembling hands, I whispered to the empty house, "If they've written me out, they'll soon learn numbers never lie." The call came on a rainy Thursday, when the gutters overflowed and the air smelled like wet concrete. Daniel's name lit up my phone, and for a moment my heart leapt the way it used to when he'd call from college just to say, "Love you, Mom." "Hi, sweetheart," I answered, tucking my ledger aside. "How's everything coming along for the big day?" Silence stretched, then he cleared his throat. "Mom, listen. Claire and I have been talking." That phrase, "been talking," I'd learned over the years was never a good sign. "Yes?" "It's just, the wedding's gotten complicated. Guest list, family dynamics, you know how it is." "No," I said softly. "I don't know how it is. You're my only son. I imagined being there." He inhaled sharply, then blurted, "Claire feels you might make things awkward. She's under a lot of stress, Mom. She wants the day to be about us, without distractions." I sat so still I could hear the rain ticking against the kitchen window. "Awkward?" I repeated. "She thinks your presence—" He stopped, sighed. "It might bring up tension. You know, the financial stuff or the way you sometimes question things. It's not personal." "Not personal," I echoed. My own checkbook entries, my savings drained by her purchases, and now I was reduced to a liability. "Please," he continued quickly, "don't make this harder. We'll have a nice dinner after the honeymoon, just us. You'll get to meet Claire properly then." I let the silence sit, as heavy as the storm outside. Finally I said, "So, after raising you, paying your tuition, covering deposits you never knew about, you're telling me I'm not welcome at your wedding?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Mom, don't say it like that. It's just one day." One day. The day I'd waited for since the moment I first swaddled him in the hospital blanket. One day, and I was erased from it. I swallowed the ache in my throat, steadied my voice, and said calmly, "All right, Daniel, I understand completely." Relief spilled out of him. "Thank you, Mom. I knew you'd be reasonable." When the call ended, I stared at the quiet kitchen, the stack of receipts beside me. Rain pattered harder, almost like applause for a performance I hadn't meant to give. I pushed the ledger forward, drew a sharp line under the last entry, and whispered into the storm, "This is just the beginning." The next week, I decided silence would only serve their story, so I put on my navy coat, the one Robert always said made me look too sharp to be dismissed, and drove downtown to Belle Maison Bridal. The boutique was lit like a jewelry box, white satin everywhere, soft piano music humming through hidden speakers. Bridesmaids clucked around racks of tulle, their chatter sweetened by the flutes of champagne in their hands, and there she was, Claire, my future daughter-in-law, standing on a pedestal while a seamstress pinned lace to her hip. She looked at herself in the mirror as if the room belonged to her. When our eyes met, her smile faltered. "Mrs. Whitaker," she said slowly, "what a surprise." "Eleanor is fine," I replied, folding my hands. "I was downtown on errands. Thought I'd stop by and see the dress." Her voice sharpened. "This isn't really the time. We're in the middle of a fitting." "Oh, I won't stay long," I said, glancing at the seamstress. "You look beautiful. Truly, worth every penny." Claire stiffened. "Excuse me." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "Just curious whose check covered the deposit for your ballroom, because according to my bank ledger, $12,500 vanished the same week you signed the contract." Her cheeks flushed, but her tone never wavered. "Daniel and I have everything under control. You must be mistaken." The seamstress pricked her finger and muttered an apology, retreating with the pins. The bridesmaids looked suddenly busy, flipping hangers with false energy. I smiled faintly. "Funny thing, numbers. They don't get mistaken. They add or they don't." Claire stepped down from the pedestal, face inches from mine. "Listen carefully. You are not part of this day. You were not invited, and you will not insert yourself. Do you understand?" I held her gaze, steady as a beam. "I understand you don't want me there, but I'll leave you with one question, Claire." Her jaw clenched. "What?" "If my presence would ruin your perfect day, what happens when my absence exposes how it was paid for?" Her eyes flickered just for a second, then she forced a laugh. "Delusional. That's what you sound like." I turned toward the door, my coat brushing the satin racks. Over my shoulder, I said, "We'll see who believes me when the lights go up." Outside, my phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. It read, "Stay quiet, or you'll regret it." By Sunday morning, the whispers had grown legs. At church, Mrs. Palmer wouldn't meet my eye. During coffee hour, two women from the quilting circle hushed when I approached the table. By Tuesday, I knew why. Claire had been busy. "She's obsessed with money." I overheard one voice murmur in the grocery store. "Keeps accusing them of stealing." "Poor Daniel," another sighed. "Imagine having a mother so unstable right before his wedding." I kept my head high, but inside my stomach churned. I'd spent decades building a reputation as steady as the numbers in my ledger, and now my future daughter-in-law was dismantling it in 3 days flat. That evening, as I was locking up, someone knocked on my door. It was Sam Carter, the caterer I'd known since Robert and I hosted anniversary dinners in the church basement. He held a manila envelope under his arm. "Ellie, I shouldn't even be here," he began, shifting on his feet. "But I can't watch this play out without saying something." I stepped aside. "Come in, Sam." He laid the envelope on my kitchen table. Inside were 3 invoices, each marked "paid in full." The handwriting across the checks was supposed to be mine, but the loops on the E, the slant on the T, they were clumsy imitations. Worse, each was drawn from my personal account. "I knew something was off," Sam said quietly. "Claire delivered these herself, said you'd sign them, but—" "Ellie, I've seen your hand on checks for 30 years. These aren't yours." My throat tightened. Proof. At last, physical proof. Sam leaned closer. "She's playing dirty, and she's got half the town convinced you're senile, but if you want to fight this, you're not alone. I'll testify." I nodded, gripping the papers. My hands trembled, but not from fear. "Thank you, Sam. This matters more than you know." He stood to leave. "Be careful. She's not done." When the door shut, I spread the invoices across my table, lining them up beside my ledger. My steady script against her forgeries, the truth staring back in ink. I whispered to the empty house. She wanted me erased. Instead, she wrote me back in. As I gathered the papers, headlights swept across my living room. A car idled at the curb. For a moment, I thought it was Sam returning, until I saw the silhouette of a woman inside, phone pressed to her ear, watching my house. The following days hollowed me out. Everywhere I turned, someone's glance carried suspicion. The postman, usually quick with a wave, handed me my mail without a word. At the pharmacy, I caught two clerks whispering as I passed the aisle. One even gestured like a swirling finger near her temple. Claire's lies had spread faster than truth could travel. On Thursday, I drove past Daniel's old house, the one Robert and I had given him the down payment for. A wreath hung on the door, ribbons crisp and new, but what froze me was the lock, shiny brass, freshly installed. The key I carried for 20 years would no longer fit. My son had cut me out, literally. That night, I ate dinner alone. Lukewarm soup reheated in the microwave, the bread stiff from the freezer. The silence pressed on me, broken only by the tick of the grandfather clock Robert used to wind every Sunday. I looked up at the mantel and realized the framed photo of Daniel's college graduation was gone. Someone, maybe Daniel himself, had taken it back. Even the memory of my sacrifices was being erased. I sat at the table, staring at the empty chair where Robert once read the paper, and whispered, "You'd tell me to fight. You'd never let me fold like this." But my chest ached with the kind of loneliness that makes a woman doubt even her own worth. The phone rang once that evening. I grabbed it, desperate for Daniel's voice. Instead, a stranger hissed, "Stay out of it, old woman, or next time it won't just be papers we forge." Then the line went dead. I pressed the receiver to my ear long after the dial tone faded, shaking. Tears welled, not just from fear, but from the unbearable weight of realizing I had no one left to call. For the first time since Robert's funeral, I laid my head on the kitchen table and wept until my shoulders ached. When I finally lifted my face, my eyes fell on the old wedding ledger tucked beside the bread box, the same one I'd carried since 1974. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark. Numbers had saved me before. Maybe they could save me again. The morning after my tears dried, I pulled the old ledger from the bread box. Its cover was worn, edges frayed, but inside every line was neat as scripture. Rent from 1978, grocery totals from 1982, the loan payment Robert and I scraped for in 1989. All of it there, living proof that I had never once lost track of what mattered. I ran my fingers over the pages, whispering, "Numbers don't lie. People do." That spark inside me grew into something hotter, resolve. Claire might have the town gossiping, but I had records. I had discipline. I had truth written in ink across decades. I gathered every bank statement, every check stub, and lined them on the dining table like soldiers ready for battle. By noon, the surface was covered in neat rows of paper. The forged invoices Sam had given me stood out like stains. Their loops were wrong, their ink uneven. When placed beside my ledger, the contrast screamed louder than any rumor. I made a list. Call my lawyer, Mr. Perkins. Contact the florist, photographer, and venue manager. Verify signatures. Acquire certified copies from the bank of suspicious withdrawals. Record every threatening call. The list steadied me. Each number I checked off felt like stitching myself back together. Mid-afternoon, I stepped onto the porch for air. Across the street, Mrs. Palmer peered from her blinds, lips pursed. I didn't flinch, let her look. Soon she'd know the truth. Inside, the phone rang again. My hand hovered, bracing for another threat. Instead, a calm voice said, "Mrs. Whitaker, this is Mr. Perkins' office. He can see you first thing Monday morning." I exhaled. Finally, movement. I placed the phone back on its cradle and looked around my quiet kitchen, no longer seeing loneliness but a war room. The ledger, the files, even the typewriter Robert once bought me. All tools waiting for use. I straightened my shoulders, whispering to myself, she tried to erase me. Now I'll write her story instead. Just then, an envelope slid under my front door. I rushed to pick it up. Inside was a single photocopy of a check, with my name scrawled across it, forged again. On the back, in red ink, someone had written, "See you at the wedding." I set the photocopied check on the table, the red scrawl glaring at me like blood on a page. "See you at the wedding." So that was her message. My silence wasn't enough. Claire wanted me to tremble, to know she was pulling the strings. Instead, I sharpened my pencil and wrote a new heading in my ledger. Plan of action. Step 1, secure the bank records. I called First County Bank. demanded certified copies of every withdrawal over $5,000 from my account in the last year. Mrs. Whitaker, the clerk hesitated, are you preparing for litigation? Yes, I answered, and I'll need a notary on each page. Step 2, gather vendor testimony. I phoned the florist. Did Claire deliver contracts signed in my name? A pause. Yes, ma'am, but she said you authorized her. Then you'll be hearing from my lawyer, I replied. Step 3, protect myself. I purchased a small digital recorder from the hardware store and tucked it in my purse. If another threat came, it would not disappear into silence. Step 4, coordinate allies. I met Sam the caterer behind his shop. He pressed my hand. You've got me, Ellie. I'll stand up in court if it comes to that. Ruth, my oldest friend, agreed to sit with me during lawyer meetings. Even Lily, my granddaughter, offered to help organize files. By Friday evening, my dining table looked less like a war room and more like a courtroom in miniature. Invoices, affidavits, and copies lined up in folders, each labeled with black marker. I stared at the stack, my heart steady for the first time in weeks. Claire thinks I'm a relic, I said to Robert's old photograph on the mantel, but I know how to fight with paper sharper than any blade. Then I circled the last step in my ledger, underlined twice. Step 5, deliver the truth on the wedding day, publicly. No whispers, no rumors. Evidence in front of every witness she invited and every vow she planned to take. I closed the ledger, the pencil line biting deep into the paper. That night, as I double-checked the folders, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail. It was Daniel's voice, low and uneasy. Mom, don't come near the ceremony. Claire says she has something that will destroy you if you try. Saturday morning dawned gray, the kind of sky that looked like damp paper. I slipped my folders into a leather satchel and drove to First County Bank. The clerk, a young man with hair too neat for his age, slid a packet across the counter. Certified copies, Mrs. Whitaker, stamped and sealed. I opened it right there, scanning. 3 withdrawals leapt from the page. $12,500, $8,200, $14,000. Each bore my name in handwriting that wobbled like a drunk's. Each bore Claire's flourish at the end of the signature, an unpracticed loop on the R. My hands tingled. Can I get an affidavit from you that these signatures don't match the original on file? I asked. The clerk glanced at his supervisor. The woman came over, older, no nonsense. Ma'am, these aren't yours. We'll sign a sworn statement for your attorney. She pressed her notary stamp, the sound like a hammer striking an anvil. That was my physical proof #1. Forged withdrawals, certified and notarized. Evidence no rumor could erase. I drove next to Perkins and Shaw, my lawyer's office. Mr. Perkins peered over his spectacles, reading every line. His eyebrows rose higher with each page. Mrs. Whitaker, this isn't petty theft. This is felony-level fraud, and she dared to put it in writing. She dared to plan a wedding with my money, I replied, my voice steady. Perkins leaned back. Bring this to the rehearsal dinner. Don't hide it. Let the whole town see. That evening, Ruth sat with me as I slid the certified packet into my satchel. She squeezed my shoulder. Ellie, you've got her cornered now. But just as I felt the first flicker of triumph, headlights swept across my driveway. A car door slammed, then another. I peered through the curtain. Daniel stood on my porch, pale as paper, rain dripping from his hair. He wasn't alone. Behind him, Claire's silhouette loomed, white coat gleaming, phone pressed to her ear. Daniel knocked softly, whispering through the door. Mom, please don't ruin this. She says she'll take everything from me if you show those papers tomorrow. The rehearsal dinner glowed with fairy lights strung across the country club's banquet hall. Crystal glasses chimed, laughter rippled through the room, and Claire moved among her guests like a queen greeting subjects. Daniel trailed her, smiling too wide, though his eyes never met mine when I slipped quietly through the doors. Gasps whispered across the tables. Claire froze, then plastered on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mrs. Whitaker, she said sweetly into the microphone. What a surprise, we weren't expecting you. No, I said, setting my satchel on the head table. You weren't, but I think your guests should hear a few things before tomorrow. Daniel rose, face stricken. Mom, please. I held up a hand. Sit down, Daniel. This isn't about you. Not yet. I opened the satchel, pulled out the notarized packet, and spread the pages across the white linen. 3 withdrawals from my account, forged signatures, certified proof from the bank. Would anyone like to see? Murmurs rippled, chairs scraped. Ruth stood from the back, voice firm. I'll look. She took the papers, read them aloud, her steady tone slicing through the whispers. Claire's face drained of color. This is outrageous. She's confused. Everyone knows that. She's been unstable for years. I leaned forward, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. Numbers don't confuse. Ink doesn't hallucinate. This is your handwriting, Claire. This is my money, and this, I pointed to the notary seal, is the law. Gasps broke into open murmuring now. Someone at the bar muttered, "Forgery's a felony." A bridesmaid lowered her champagne flute, staring. Daniel's hand shook. "Claire, is this true?" She laughed too loudly. "Of course not. She's jealous, trying to ruin our happiness." "Daniel, don't you see? She's doing this to embarrass us." I picked up the microphone from its stand, my voice carrying across the hall. Embarrassment is what happens when truth shows up uninvited, and tomorrow, it will walk right down the aisle with you. Claire's mask cracked, her smile dropped, and into the microphone she hissed, forgetting the crowd. "If you keep this up, old woman, you won't live to see the vows." The room fell silent. The room went still after Claire's threat, the kind of silence that swallows sound. Then, like a stone dropped in water, voices rose. First whispers, then full-blown murmurs. Guests shifted in their seats, eyes darting between her pale face and my steady hand still holding the microphone. "Did she just threaten her?" Someone gasped near the buffet. Claire snapped back into performance mode. "She's twisting everything. My future mother-in-law has memory issues. She doesn't know what she's saying." Her laugh was brittle, hollow, but the damage was done. Too many people had heard. Daniel buried his face in his hands. I closed the folder, tucking it back into my satchel. "We'll let the courts decide what I remember," I said evenly. That night, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 3 missed calls, then a voicemail. Claire's voice hissed through the speaker. "You paraded those lies in front of everyone. Keep pushing and you'll regret it. You'll lose Daniel for good." I pressed save, evidence. Then another message, this time from a trembling Daniel. "Mom, you've gone too far. Ashley's family is furious. Maybe you should just stay away tomorrow. Please don't do this to me." His voice cracked. My heart ached, but I pressed save again. The next morning, as I laid the satchel on my kitchen table, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Lily, my granddaughter, standing there, her backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes blazing. "Grandma, I saw everything last night online," she said. "Half the town is posting about what Claire said into that mic. She can't take it back. You're not alone anymore." I swallowed hard. "Lily, this could get ugly." "Then let it. Dad's blinded, but I'm not. If you walk into that wedding, I'm walking beside you." The resolve in her young face lit a fire in my chest stronger than fear. For the first time, I felt the tide shift. Claire wasn't the only one who could play to an audience. Lily pulled a flash drive from her backpack, placing it in my palm. "I copied something off Dad's laptop last night. You'll want to see this." I held the flash drive like it was a live wire. "Lily, what is this?" She crossed her arms. "Dad left his laptop open. I saw emails, dozens, from Claire to some lawyer in Phoenix. She was asking how to transfer assets if the account holder died." The word lodged like a stone in my throat. "Died?" "She's planning something, Grandma. I saved the folder before he came back into the room. Plug it in." With trembling fingers, I slid the flash drive into my old desktop. Files filled the screen, PDFs, email chains, scanned documents. My breath caught when I saw the subject lines: estate planning questions, urgent transfer request, power of attorney draft. I clicked one open. Claire had written, "My fiancé's mother is elderly and ill. Once I'm his wife, we'll need her property transferred quickly. What paperwork should we prepare in case of sudden death?" My stomach turned, bile rising. "She wasn't just stealing money," I whispered. "She was paving the road for my grave." Lily gripped my hand. "We can show this tomorrow, right? This is bigger than money." "She's dangerous." I printed every file, sliding them into a red folder separate from the bank proofs. Physical proof #2. Cold, digital receipts of her intentions, her arrogance in writing. That night, I barely slept. Images looped in my mind. Claire at the altar, Daniel blind beside her, guests applauding while she sharpened her knife behind his back. At dawn, I packed the satchel, the ledger, the notarized withdrawals, and now the red folder. As I zipped it shut, my phone lit with a new text from an unknown number. If you bring those papers to the ceremony, the vows won't be the only thing buried today. I steadied my breath, staring at the glowing screen. Fear scratched at the edges of my resolve, but it couldn't pierce the armor I'd built from truth and ink. I looked at Lily, already dressed, determined eyes mirroring my own younger fire. "Ready?" she asked. I slipped the strap of the satchel over my shoulder. Yes, but after today, Claire Whitmore will never be ready for me again. As we stepped out the door, police sirens wailed in the distance, heading straight toward the church where the wedding was to be held. The church parking lot was already crowded when Lily and I arrived. Sirens wailed closer, then stopped right out front. Two squad cars pulled in, lights flashing red against the stained glass windows. Guests spilled onto the steps, whispering, phones raised like a forest of antennas. Claire stood at the entrance in her gown, veil pinned high, Daniel by her side looking dazed. When she saw the officers, her painted smile faltered. I stepped forward, satchel heavy against my shoulder. "Officers," I said, voice clear enough to carry, "I believe you'll want to see these." I opened the satchel right on the hood of a squad car. First, the certified bank withdrawals, then the red folder, emails printed in black and white, her words etched in arrogance. The lead officer scanned the pages, jaw tightening. "Forgery, conspiracy to defraud, and this?" He tapped the estate transfer email. "This looks a lot like premeditation." Claire lunged forward. "Lies, all lies. She forged those to frame me." But Lily stepped up, voice ringing. "I copied them myself from Dad's laptop. Every file, every timestamp is here. Check the metadata if you don't believe me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. A bridesmaid dropped her bouquet. Daniel staggered, his face gray. "Claire, is it true?" She shrieked, voice cracking. "They're making it up. She's just a bitter old woman trying to ruin us." I turned the microphone stand, meant for vows, toward myself. My words echoed through the speakers across the courtyard. "Numbers don't lie, records don't lie, and my granddaughter doesn't lie. Claire planned to steal everything I own, and when money wasn't enough, she was already writing about my death." The officers moved then, firm and decisive. Handcuffs clicked around her wrists, her veil slipping sideways as she fought. Gasps turned to open chatter, some recording, some comforting Daniel as he broke down on the steps. Claire twisted to glare at me, venom in her eyes. "You think you've won? You've destroyed your own son's life." I met her gaze, steady. "No, I just saved it." The officers guided her into the squad car. The door slammed shut. For the first time in weeks, my chest loosened, breath flowing free. Daniel turned toward me, eyes full of shame and tears. "Mom, after everything, can you ever forgive me?" Daniel and I sat in my kitchen that evening, the satchel finally closed for good. His hands shook as he sipped the coffee I poured, the same way I had done for him after scraped knees, broken hearts, and late-night study sessions years ago. "I should have believed you," he whispered. I reached across the table, resting my hand on his. "What matters is you see clearly now. That's how healing starts." For the first time in months, his eyes held the boy I remembered, the one I'd raised to know right from wrong. The ledger sat on the counter, pages filled with numbers that had carried me through every storm. Proof had saved me, but love had carried me here. Claire was gone, her mask torn off in front of everyone, and I finally had my dignity back. I wasn't erased, not forgotten, not crazy. I was whole. If you've listened this far, thank you. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Stories U60 USA because stories like mine deserve to be heard.